Access granted.
Σάβα, φίλιαν μου. Si καλημέρα λάσου ρεγόγι γαλ la Glòstean Empyraen. Φίνομα άλλαν. Η μαλδουίτ λασουίτ διάγεφεστης γαλ είναι γλόρμεν γλώσκανα η γεάντ ποτάστα. legitim nugal uniata a practicim la noi dexilian gal noacatim alla telo. Edophelon nikoi salmata gal Glòstean, taldo acone inu irvani catean a mas olium. Nadvos amra bata gal la rudai. I'll just give you a moment to digest that and consider the vocabulary section we've got coming up on your screen. As a good introduction to ESG, EasyG, or more officially la Glòstean Empyraen, the official language of the Imperium of Alexander. This language is 100% invented, but it might be possible for the linguists among you to notice how I tried to evolve this language into something that might come about naturally in a world where Latin and Rome's other influences never occurred. I tried to combine, evolve and play with 7 or 8 source languages, in which ancient and modern Greek play a dominant part, and come up with something which is not entirely new, but sounds like something approaching natural speech. ESG has a grammatical structure based on many Mediterranean languages, including Greek, because of course Alexander spoke Koine Greek. We can see as we continue today some of that influence in what follows. Let us begin with pronouns and articles. So beginning with the pronouns and articles, as you can see, there are many of those there on this slide that you're seeing right now, and they're quite simple. You may have seen them in examples before. If you read through these, I've got moi as me, ma as my, tu as you, ti as your, no as we, ni as our, toi as their, do as theirs, shu, notice the pronunciation, it's got the kind of Gaelicish, Turkish pronunciation to it, as they and it in the formal sense, and si as in their, yours, theirs and its. Of course, when we're following on from that also, we have 2 kinds. Now there are 2 main forms of regular verbs in ESG. We won't focus on any irregular verbs. We may perhaps be making those up as we go along. But the 2 main regular verbs are what are called the id and the ed, AID and EAD ending verbs. So the last 3 letters of each verb is either of those 3 sequences. So we will start first of all on what we call the id or AID verbs, and we're starting that with the verb of doed or to be. Now there are 3 tenses that we mainly use: present anoid, past prin, and the future shwimak. And as you can see, it's quite simple. We're just taking off the end of the verb and replacing it with something else. Dwi for I am, dwin for you are, du for we are, etc. In the past, slight change, we have duis for I was, dues for you were, and duus for we were. And of course in the future, duid for I will, dued for you will, duud for you will. And as you can see, you have the roots of these verbs, which are interesting, and it just gives you an ability to express. I'm mainly influenced a lot by Mediterranean languages, and those of you who are familiar with Mediterranean languages will know, as well as Latin, that those verb forms have existed and they were possibly borrowed from Greek. So this is where I got my influences from there. Next we move on to, this is a little bit of a joke word. Any Bengali or Gujarati speakers among you will get the joke, and possibly some Hindi speakers as well. We have joliad, to go, jolly jolly. So we'll get to that anyway. The joke is there. Again, we have 3 tenses: present anoid, past prin, and future shumak. Again, I go jolai, you go jolly, we go jolu, they go jolly, you, they, and it goes in the formal sense, jolis. And again, slight change, jolan for I went in the past, jolin for you went in the past, or jolin for you Spanish speakers there, jolun, we went, jolin, they went, and jolas in the formal sense, future tense, jolad, I will go, jolid, you will go, jolud, we will go, joled, they will go, and jolads for the formal tense. And as you can see, there's this flexibility, and a lot of the verbs are going to follow that. So as you're reading through, you're able to see how, because what I've been playing with the verb tenses is a way of a structure that is slightly different to what you're used to, just to play with your mind a little bit. Now, next we are going to go into some more. We're going to also here go into the plurals as well. So if you'll bear with me, you have to follow everything around here. So the plurals are polyod. As you can see there, plural forms follow no hard and fast rules, as they're most regionally diverse. People do what they're used to doing. Below examples are some of examples of those that do follow the rules. So any words ending with a, the plural form is ean. Those ending in os, as or is end with the plural form of I. Those ending with al or el end with ion, and those ending with ei, e or la end with on or om. Quite simple really if you think about it like that. We also touch on the reflexive tense here, or the tradespeople. It doesn't exactly have an exact reflexive tense in ESG, but there is something approaching one, and we do use this in a number of different forms. It can be appended to the verb and used as how a person is suffering consequences of a particular action, how the action is applied to you as a person, how the action upon this verb affects later circumstances, or the circumstances which follow it, and so forth. It's also used as a regional element, and it can also be used for emphasis and sarcasm. And so we'll give you some examples later on, but you'll actually see that for the suffix for I is er, for you a, for we or us es, for he, she and it ia, for they es, and for you they and it is. And again, this is just adding on to the verb itself to help produce the desired effect. So what I'd like to do now is something a little bit more fun perhaps, is we're going to drop into what we call the tourist essentials, and we'll cover those things that would be useful perhaps for a new speaker of ESG to actually know. You know, all the common stuff, you know, where is a train station, blah blah blah, that comes in handy when you're learning a new language, and you always entertain the locals by pronouncing them wrongly. We're going to start here with the numbering system, or the arithmia. The basic numbering system follows the Old Greek idea. 24 languages in the Old Greek alphabet. We use all of them except lambda, mu, and kappa. Why is the reason? Because these are modifiers. So as you can see in the example here, 1 to 10 would be alpha onwards. Then when you get to something like 11, that's where lambda comes into play. Lambda equals the addition or the multiple of 10. Lambda alpha is 11. Lambda beta is 12. If you're going a bit further and you want to top out 25, you do beta lambda epsilon. If you're doing 50, I've chosen pi for reasons I cannot explain to you. But when you're going up from that, you do the next thing. If you're doing 60, it'll be alpha, pi, alpha, and so on and so forth. 100, we use kappa for that. Mu is used for thousands. Million, we don't really have one because it's a complicated system enough. Now, you'll be probably pleased to know when you're looking at this that the Arabian numbering system is starting to take over, because it was developed at enough of a time for Alexander to have encountered it in his initial conquest, and also for it to be picked up as moving on. And the engineers of the Dwarven nation do prefer it because it's a lot easier to write down and a lot less complicated to confuse. And it's also crossing into the modern military, and is used almost exclusively in the Union system as they're trying to separate themselves from Alexander. Next, we are going to move on to, just because it's always nice to know, the actual seasons of the year, known as the Reathion. Now, you'll find in Empyrean Standard Greek and Glòstean there are always roots and commonalities, and usually the name of the thing includes what it is going to be. For example, summer is Samriathi, sorry. Winter is Gamerethiari, spring is Edgerethiari, and autumn is Fomrethiari. So is, again, you're seeing it is taking the word for season, applying its plural form, and then the name before it. So summer is sun seasons, winter is frozen season, spring is growing season, autumn is falling season. Simple. Makes sense when you think about it, doesn't it? Then next we are going to move on here. Where are we going? Oh yes, so today's of the week, which is always handy to know. You can tell people, or you can ask people what happens here on Monday. So, days of the week again, or the Leirth Gal Evdom. Again, 7 days of the week. Again, they're following a sort of pattern, as you will see. Monday is Luanera. Tuesday is Merdera. Wednesday is Sedenera. Thursday is Tiardera. Friday is Eonera. Saturday is Sathaera. And Sunday is Didomera. Again, as in English, you have the day on the end, as in you have Monday, Tuesday, blah blah blah. In Empyrean, era is a thing that indicates it is a 24-hour period preceding the one that comes next to it. After that, we're going to move on now to the logical progression from here, months of the year. So, months of the year, or Mosian Galbliera, again, you'll see a system. January, Ekatom. February, Tageitom. March, Dromium. April, Artesium. May, Teremion. June, Sedium. July, Galemium. August, Thesterium. September, Phobelium. October, Niclium. November, Argelium. And December, Nolerium. And again, you're seeing how this all fits together, that we are actually finding ways to link history. Obviously, Nolerium relating to Noel, Phobelium, September, fear, fall, change, disappearing of the sun, October, Nicolium, time of victory, all those sort of things. You get the general idea that we put a lot of thought into this. Now finally, let's finish up with something most exciting indeed, which are the colours, or the Chromatin. Because obviously we're going to need to know these at some point. We've got red, raso, yellow, meli, pink, roso, green, pras, purple, bain, orange, orain, blue, glass,
white asban, black mevdu, brown kavdon, and grey kairo. And again, you may see other influences here, and these are quite intentional to give the idea of some organicity, some change, some evolution from other languages. You can see that razo for red is similar to rosa for pink because they're similar in colour. Bain and orain, again, there's a link because they're mixtures of two colours. Glass makes sense if you think about it. Kafdon, again, if you think about what that sounds like, and which is also coloured either dark, very dark brown, almost black, or brown, depending if you add milk or not. It gives you ideas and thoughts on how this thing comes about, which is very useful to have, I feel. Now, and for a final practice, and we're going to say, now for the fun part, it is time to read along and practice the following phrases with me, if you don't mind. I'd be very pleased if you would. So, if you'll bear with me 2 seconds, I just need to pull up the right information here and make sure I'm giving you the right data to follow, because I said I was prepared, didn't I? Well, you will learn any teacher that says they're prepared is wrong, because things always go wrong. But it is a sign of a great teacher, I've been told, to be able to fill the gaps convincingly in between. So we'll start with the first phrase here, as you can see now. I've mentioned one of these already, but I've expanded it a bit. So, ma'on, there are two, you may have seen there are two different ways of saying some things. You can either say ma'ona nama or fimu nama, Alan. Ma puna lambda delta epsilon, samrathion, or Pleiadian. So you can use either summers or turns, seasons, orbits. Tosanea abelfiera, duifilda iscribgrapha untukidu ma. My name is Alan, I'm 45 years or summers old. I missed out in the bit underneath that says I was born in Ireland. Well, I am from Ireland. I exist from Ireland in Belfast. I'm a poet and a writer for a living. Next one we have is A un tumo thaina la Glòstean Empyraen. Adutmu abarita a gobasan arla foglagach. In order for you to learn the language of the Empyrean, it is necessary for you to forget all you have previously known. The previously being silent there. I'll move on to a few more interesting phrases. You can say Sava kalinam odnam, 3 different ways of saying hello. Postcasto ilis mutalo. Greetings. How does the day find you? Literally, greetings. How do you find yourself under this sun? We also have duidune shu. What is that? Or what is it? You can also have there are 2 similar phrases that you can use to ask for the same thing. You can say Herarai diet or Herarai krid. Where shall I meet you, or when shall I meet you? And then we also have krid duus. What time is it? You're seeing it's a simple language to follow here to so many degrees. And now we'll go to a couple more complex phrases and a dirty one just to finish off. So, first one, this is spoken by Glòstean, and it's something to do with his philosophy. Say, ai, la panasta a untan duedes, athrana I anukil dos la corona. Nanu gel ia itu anoid shoin el. He says, yes, the panastas, resistance needs to change or adapt with the times. We cannot allow ourselves to think that the Union will just lie down. Now for the dirty one. This one is used by Sean Ollimore. If you've read the short story introducing him, he uses a version of this, and it is rude. But every language has to have a bit of rudeness, and to be honest, I invented La Glòstean ESG in order to swear and get away with it in a book without it getting edited out. So, Anshai itu lamor mug tod tisus naptalalagid, which means may a large, ugly, fat man invade you intimately. It literally means may it be that the big, ugly, fat man does you up the bum. But it's one of those things. But I find soldiers are colourful in their language, so we have to allow them to be so, don't you think? I personally think so. Now we're moving on at last. As a final practice, I believe no language can be considered decent, fluent, or be properly tested as a real sounding language until you can recite poetry in it and make it still sound like poetry. So as a special treat for you today, we will briefly visit the works of the great Glòstean, the Empyrean universe's version of Shakespeare. You will notice several such people crop up through the Empyrean cycle. We've got Albrecht Einstein, we've got Dr. Stefan Scherbak, Nikolaj Tesla, Nigan Shorbegan, and many more. I love dropping a few Easter eggs in for people to find and decipher, and I challenge you to name the versions of these people. But let's start with the first of these practices, shall we? And we're going to start, you may have heard this, I may have mislabeled this one actually, I forget which sonnet this is, but it is one of Enkykloaedeia's sonnets. Shall I compare these to a summer's day? Magil argal, tu dianuntu, la samrith mois, agiciare an mori kratem, nadrim gathan kanat, lorukran, arthargolis. And I'm not going to repeat that back to in English, you can look up this anyway. You can enjoy it, it'll make you read Shakespeare's sonnets, so what's wrong with that? And the second one I'd like to touch on is our good friend the Danish prince, Hamlet. This is from Act 5, as you may see there. So, yeah, Act 5, Scene 1. Oma, gamma, ara, alpha. From Hamlet by Enkykloaedeia. Dueda na. La cistia autoduis. Agagila anslem, ita duis untucion, nagofrithiedis, petreni tiriondari lama galetaichoi, noagas, abrithma es ankulshoi. Now, I'm not a great actor, as you may have noticed. I talk a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm a great actor. But I feel it flows enough that you can believe that is a language, and that's what we're aiming towards, but of course I'd welcome feedback. But that, my friends, that is your introduction to ESG or La Glòstean Empyraen. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Please visit the link coming up to review the working document, and I emphasize the word working document because it's under constant change. The more I practice, the more I play, the more I use it, the more I develop it, and the more I find ways to make it better. But please review the document, upload it for your perusal and study. And I would just like to say to Shlavala Filiamu, Tumor dakagal latikrona I pathe inui, Kalishan I tashangal ashui shuma, Alessandros Ainore. Again, Shlamvala Filiamu, Tumor dakagal latikrona I pathe inui, Kalishan I tashangal lashui shuma, lashui shuma. Alessandros Ainore. Again, Alessandra Sanori. Alexandra Turner. You may have seen that on the website. Thank you. Have a great day. See you soon.